your journey, your story, and give a few tips on how to help people out there as well. And, sort of people learning from your journey, your mistakes and your success stories as well. And a thing or two for people that want to go into something like what you're doing. Because as you know, anybody that has done it before, automatically you're a pro because you've got the blueprint. So and it's way easier that way. Once you've done something before, you'll be able to tell guys, don't go through this route, go through this way, it's easier this way. All this we are doing again, is sort of saving time as well. You're trying to just leverage on other people's knowledge, as to say.
Right. Absolutely.
Yeah.
That's key.
Yeah. So on this occasion, Adi, welcome you to AskDproS Business, where we speak to business people like you, trying to, get your ideas, your knowledge, your journey, how it has been for you, in a way, try to just guide us, and suggest ways we can do things better, quicker, better, save us time. And on this show, I always start from the beginning, start from the beginning means like telling us a bit about you, how you grew up, and your journey so far and how it has been for you.
Sure. So these days I live in the United States, but I grew up in the Balkans during the civil wars in the 1990s. And one of my earliest memories was a bomb exploding outside of our window. Having that kind of experience as a kid, you just think that's part of life. You don't exactly understand why it's happening. But as you grow older, you start wondering, well, why did someone try to kill me? What was so wrong with me? Or what was really happening? That kind of stuff helps you grow up really fast. So when I was 7, I started my first business, right? I had this idea that a neighbor of mine and we would go buy some sodas wholesale and sell them at school, retail. And the following generation had to make it again because the previous generation ended up losing it because of the circumstances and so on. So experiences like that really prepare you, right? And then also, I started early on getting involved with various organizations in the Balkans, which then led me to want this dream of a better life. So I was 17 or 16, 17, I was throwing rocks into the Adriatic, dreaming of a better life. And a year later, I was in the United States, came here with $300 and a dream. And 2 suitcases, right? I was very determined to make it. I did not know how I was going to do that, but it was sort of, failure was not an option. And so from there, I went to check 150 colleges in the United States, looking for scholarships, looking for funding. I missed a lot of deadlines because I did not know the system. I was very anxious. I was nostalgic. I was struggling as, a 17-year-old kid would. And then out of those 150, 148 said no. But I was so determined because to me, the no's did not matter. I just needed one yes. And then in 1 week, I get 2 yeses. And I end up in this school that gave me opportunities. And during that time, I was so grateful to have the opportunity to be here and to study that I maximized my potential. So by the time I was 20, I was running $1.7 million budget of a division of the university. I was running a newspaper, managing 50 people. I was so motivated, right, to lead, to make a difference. And that kind of set me up on a path of making things happen. And then one thing led to another, graduate school, building a think tank on financial literacy that became a national program, to running a Center for Spiritual Development, Leadership, and Service, and then falling into the work I'm doing now, which is coaching, speaking, training. That was not something I was set out to do. It was this instinct to build businesses and leadership that drove me. And then, one thing led to another, and here I am today, helping other people do the same thing, build businesses and create lives, design lives that they love, and also helping organizations do the same thing. So that's kind of in the nutshell.
Yeah, Adi, what a remarkable story, man. Love that, So, but growing up, Adi, what were you motivated by? What were you passionate about?
So I was always passionate by leading people. So that was my thing. I remember as a kid, outside we would play, and I'd have a few friends, and I always thought, well, I know the best. We're gonna do these things right together, and we're gonna achieve something. I always want to build things. So I always had these ideas. I wanted to sell posters at one point. We're going to draw He-Man and Ninja Turtles and then see if anybody wants to buy this thing, right? There's always that spirit within me. At the same time, as I got older, another passion emerged, which was helping people, right? Making that impact. So I would want to figure things out, and then help people kind of achieve whatever it is they want to achieve. So if you want to think about it as I was a helper, right? I wanted to assist others. I wanted to make a mark. I wanted to change the community. Why did these wars happen? Why is our school bad? I mean, I wanted to start a newspaper when I was 8th grade. That was so we can be informed. I did a debate team that didn't exist. We set it up. I was a DJ at one point too, because we had music on our school breaks. So I was very, very motivated to make an impact. So that was very much as a kid. I didn't, of course, understand it at that time, but going back, there's so many examples of that. On the flip side, I'm a total nerd. So I would read history and philosophy and biographies and religion, which, wasn't something that I was taught by my parents to read. My dad would always say, you should be an engineer, like him, or get into techie world. That's what I should really do for a living. What's this history thing and leadership? What does that all mean? He wasn't really into politics and stuff. No, but I was very passionate about that. So that was very much my childhood. Yeah, and great. I talk about it in my book also, like starting up like a coffee shop, or wanting to anyway.
Yeah, great, Adi. Having spoken about, education, importance of going to school and all that, what would you say? Because these days, a lot of entrepreneurs or, speakers and people that do coaching as well tend to get to the side of saying education is not really that important. If you find a gift, if you find what you love, just pursue that, and make that a reality, solve problems, and you can also turn that into a business as well. Having said that, what is your take on going to school, being educated, or just going through the entrepreneurial route, and just damn all consequences and no education and college dropout kind of, lifestyle? What's your take on that?
Mm-hmm. So I think it depends. It depends who you are, right? So this comes from a guy who has a graduate degree, right? I love learning, and I enjoyed learning in that structural sense. But I don't believe everybody should go to college. Steve Jobs, he took one class in college, a class that was instrumental in creating the font and the look that Apple has to this day, right? So that kind of thing is, I think it really depends who you are, what matters to you, and how good your idea is. Formal education can serve as rites of passage from childhood to adulthood. If you facilitate that for yourself, and many colleges don't do this, there's really no point for college, right? If you don't need it and you can facilitate that for yourself in another way. So formal education is not the same as learning. Entrepreneurs have to learn. So you look at some of the most successful entrepreneurs, Richard Branson, right? He reads, he consumes information in large amounts. You look at Bill Gates, the guy literally takes every book on a particular subject and he reads everything he can about it. Now, as an entrepreneur, you don't have to do as much, but you have to be educated, you have to be open-minded, well-rounded, so you can connect the dots and build upon your ideas. So if you like a traditional education route and you have the ability to do so and opportunities, I think there's value in it, especially if you make it your own. So you don't just follow the path, but you maximize the opportunity you have. If you just go for an education because others tell you you're supposed to, and you do it so you can have a job that you're ultimately gonna hate, well, that's not a good idea. So it has to be very much thought out, something that you feel like you want to do or not. I think that's the take. And I referred to my book, Own It. In it, I talk about education, and I got a lot of feedback on that. People told me, well, what do you mean? You're a kid who came to America and wanted to get an American education. Why would you say that not everybody should get an education of that, formal? Because not everyone should. Some people are really talented for technical skills. Why do they need to go the traditional route? There are community colleges or just apprenticeships that can help them get ahead and make things happen, make a living, and make a great life. So again, it's very personal choice.
Yeah, absolutely, Adi. Like you said a couple of minutes ago, you came to America with $1 and a dream. And starting as an entrepreneur, we all know it's a very difficult path to take. It's so difficult as an entrepreneur. You just want to just make things work, but sometimes it doesn't work your way. So in saying this, what inspired that journey for you as an entrepreneur?
So it was two things. One is freedom. I like to be in charge. I like to make my own choices. I like to make my own decisions. I've been in environments where I also work for a structured, traditional company. But in those situations, people recognize that my need for freedom is what will make me productive. So anytime I had that opportunity, I was able to be entrepreneurial within that environment. So it's very much how you want to, function. So for me, freedom is important. The other part of it is entrepreneurship is about seeing an opportunity and filling the gap, doing something better than others, connecting the dots in a different way, or recognizing you have a particular talent that you want to share with others that has a unique angle, right? Unique aspect to it. And then you are willing to take a risk and give it to people. Sometimes I hear people, that I work with who want to be entrepreneurs because they like the idea of being a business owner, a CEO, they want the title. And I encourage them strongly, if that's the motivation, don't do it, because it's not an easy path. And when you said, sometimes you fail or you don't get things happen the way you want them, you fail a lot. And you question what you're doing frequently because it gets tough. And you wonder, oh, should I be doing this? So that motivation, that pull, that vision for yourself has to be very strong. Otherwise, it's hard to persevere when it gets tough.
Yeah, good. Yeah, but in doing all this as well, we tend to forget about about the other side. There's failure and there's success as well. In terms of defining success in business, trying to equate that to your personal well-being as well. What does success in business really mean to you? Is there any such in a success, or it's just an illusion we just crave about?
So success to me is when you have purpose, when you do what you love and you do as much of it every day. So success is not some far off fling thing. You may have goals and so on, but success is whether you're living out your purpose daily. So my purpose is to make an impact in the world. So if I'm talking to you right now, and if you or your listeners walk away with a single thing that impacts their life for the better, I will have made, I will have lived out my purpose. Now my ambition means I want that at a larger scale. And of course, we all have goals in terms of money, in terms of reach, in terms of opportunity and so on. But for me, I think success in life and success in business, they overlap. They have to be very connected, and they have to be connected with who am I who I am as a person and what I care about, what's important to me. And so that is also what keeps me going. Right? When some of those, let's say you have a goal and you don't reach it, well, how do you keep going? People get burnt out when they have a goal. Okay, when I get to this point, then I'm going to be happy, and that's where I'm going to feel successful. The problem with that is what happens in the journey. You can't ignore the journey just because you're so focused on destination. Doesn't mean we don't want the destination. Of course we do, but the journey gives us the fuel. It keeps us going. It kind of creates like that snowball effect, right? So nothing succeeds like success. So that's so I think that would be very much what drives me, or how I view success.
Yeah, absolutely. But to add to that, you have to love the process as well. Love the process, love the journey, and love every other thing that comes with it. Because
yes.
Yeah, and
at least be okay with it.
Yeah. And Ade, you've created this old nice thing for yourself. For me, I can say things are going well for you, But in terms of managing your processes and putting things together, and making sure that every unit works as one, how have you managed to do this? Are you the only guy behind the camera, or the other guys, pushing other buttons as well?
So just my imaginary friends. I'm just kidding. So I have at different times, I've had different levels of support. So I've had internship programs where I brought in people. I've had the support, you know, they talk about to have a good business, you have a good accountant, you have a good lawyer. And then, you know, I have various people that I've engaged at different times for different projects. So the number of, you know, when the work goes up, let's say when I was writing my books, I had to have editors who help out with that. If there's a particular promotion we do, you know, I have contracted and had people contribute. Since COVID in particular, I have I've kind of shifted more to doing a lot more things myself, in part because it's practical, in part because I have the time, but also because I have narrowed the focus, and the focus has been to reach as many people as possible. And so that's where, you know, the best, if I'm going to reach people, I'm the best person to talk about what I've got to offer to people, right? And so that's kind of the way it works as far as the structural in terms of the organization. Now, when I ran different organizations before, I had teams of different sizes, 50, 15, 9, you know, it really depended. Also, when I was, when it comes to managing in terms of tasks and getting things done, I'm big on managing yourself. So you don't manage your time because time is elusive, right? You manage your energy levels. So the way I schedule my days, it's very much based on when I have higher level of energy or when I have creative energy versus administrative work, that kind of stuff. So that is how I pace myself so I don't experience burnout, and so I can get most of the things done effectively. The other thing is I'm big on important versus urgent stuff. So I'm big on getting the things that are important. So I don't know if you're familiar with the whole, you know, the concept of 20-80. So 20% of the activities deliver 80% of results. I'm very much focused on being strategic about it on a daily basis. So when I write my to-do list the night before, I think about, okay, what are all the things I could be doing tomorrow? Which are the most important 3 to 5 things I need to get done? Everything else, if I get to it, is a bonus, but I don't sweat if I don't get to the rest of it. But 3 to 5 things is what really counts. And so that has helped me manage and keep focus and have clarity in terms of what's important versus being pulled in a million directions.
Yeah, great. But if you were to give up a role right now, you know, what would that role be? You know, like part of your processes right now. If you were to give that up and say, you know, I don't want to handle this anymore. I just want to push this aside. You know, what part of your processes would that be?
What part of or delegate to someone? I think I would probably delegate. I probably delegate a part of the sales component, and not the closing of the sale, but doing some of the grunt work. That is probably the part that I would do, and I would probably ask for some assistance in creating some of the projects I'm working on in terms of deliverables for some clients and so on. And I do some of this, right? I have several people on call that I delegate to. For example, if I need to just get some design done for a presentation or a project, I have, you know, a designer on call. If I need any kind of contract agreement or any of that, I send it off to my attorney. So some of the administrative stuff is taken care of, but I think as I'm talking to you, I think the bigger part would be the sales, but a very strategic sales, right? So I get a lot of requests. I'm telling you, I get at least 5 requests every single day from people, whether they're selling me their marketing services, whether they're selling me sales and so on. But I'm still waiting for someone who actually reaches out and actually understands how to go about it. So for me, strategically, and what that means is getting to a higher platform. Because to me, what drives me is not solely making a living, but it is reaching as many people as I can in an effective way. And so that's when if I think of what I would delegate, it's less delegation and it's perhaps more investment. How can someone who is strategically positioned to help get that voice out there?
Yeah, it's true. Yeah, I know building a brand, you know, and and building a company as well, it's a very difficult thing to do, and from the outside, people don't really understand, how much work goes into actually, building a brand. For you, how have you managed to do this for your own brand, and how do you stand apart as well, to like people that want speakers, that want coaches and stuff? They're like, something you do differently that sets you apart from the crowd, as a business owner and also a brand builder as well.
So one of my favorite sayings is authenticity gives you the authority to lead. And so that's the answer. It's authenticity. It's me. And second part of it is believing in your product. So I don't give any advice that I haven't tested myself or have tested it with my clients, which means I believe that I know that this works. So I don't just do I'm going to promise you the world. I tell my clients, I level with my clients based on where we are at. I tell them that here you are. In order to see real change, this is what's going to take for you. And you might not want that. You might want, overnight, but I'm not going to promise you something I can't deliver. And I've had people come to me and say, hey, can you teach me to become a coach? And I have been very hesitant because, my grandmother used to say, I can give you the recipe, but I cannot give you the hands to make food. So I'm very hesitant because I believe in the quality. So when you stand behind your authentic brand and then you believe in it, you live it, and you believe in your product, you're not gimmicks are not necessary. A lot of people focus on the brand aspect of things. I believe that we're humans. We don't need to be a brand ourselves. We are a person. So show up, show what you've got, get better at it all the time. And that's people are going to notice that. There's certain brands out there, exactly what they are because of what they deliver, and they deliver it constantly. So that's how I've done it. And it's believing in what I stand for, right? Believing in, name of my business is Think Change. I believe in change because that's the only constant. And I believe the importance of us thinking about it so we don't get swept by it and then overwhelmed. So, and therefore I live it, right?
Yeah, absolutely. I love that. So in saying that now, how do you stay creative? What brings out the fire in you to do more and to be more innovative as well?
It's a great question. So, so I have several processes that I utilize to keep that, artist, that creative person in me alive. So some of it is removing the clutter from the mind. When our mind is cluttered, it's very difficult to be creative. The other is exposing ourselves to different stuff. Anytime we expose ourselves to something different, our brain gets sort of like a new sensation and it starts wrestling with it. And that process creates disruption. It creates, that's where creativity lies, in that tension between the new and old, right? And so the way I keep my innovation is I'm constantly on the lookout. I'm curious, right? I look for other things that are out there. I wrestle with new ideas. I'm learning constantly. And I have these processes to generate ideas. So almost every day I'll sit down and I'll write 10 ideas about any topic. Like 10 ideas on what I should eat today, 10 ideas on how to solve world poverty, 10 ideas on most beautiful plants. It doesn't really matter what the topic is, whatever comes to my mind, but that keeps the brain in the rhythm, right, of creativity. It keeps it going. And brain is like a muscle. So the more you exercise it, the stronger it gets.
Yeah, good. Love that. So what has been the most challenging thing for you? How you started your brand from the right beginning to where you are right now? What was most challenging for you, and how did you overcome that part of the business? Because the reason why I'm asking this is most people will be listening now and they're like, okay, I'm going through certain things. How can I make any changes? For you, what were the things that were challenging for you, and how did you overcome those challenges?
So it's actually very interesting. So I had this plan for myself. I was going to go to college. I was going to get a political science degree in global politics. Then I was going to go to law school. And after that, I was going to run for office. That was the dream. Except I ended up at the Center for Spiritual Development, Service, and Leadership. And there I would talk to people. I signed up so I could turn around the organization. So we built programs. We got a lot of people involved. We rebranded, started a magazine, all these different things, really grew the organization, turned it around. But one of the things that kept happening, all these different people would come to me, talk to me daily while I was there about all kinds of advice. They wanted advice on things. They were curious about how to handle life, relationships, starting a business, career, all those things. And I would give them advice because it just made sense to me to answer those questions. It turned out a lot of that advice was very, very helpful. Additionally, I did different trainings on leadership, on spiritual development, on service. We did a lot of different stuff that I just designed those programs the way it made sense to me. Again, not ever realizing I was doing anything different. And then one day, my brother called me and he said, "Hey, you sound like this guy I just heard on TV." And I was like, "Okay, who is it?" He's like, "Tony Robbins." I'm like, "Who the hell is Tony Robbins?" I was like, "Actually, I know. I saw his book at a bookstore. I used to go every weekend, spend a whole weekend at Barnes & Noble, read as many books as I could." That's literally what I did. I know, boring, but that's what I did every weekend for a long time. And so I would see his book, but I always thought he was some sort of athlete because he's so tall, right? So I didn't know what a life coach was. And I kind of fell into it. And that's where I recognized it was my calling, right? I recognized this communication, this, as someone called it, gift of gab, ability to connect with people, to talk, to communicate. And then same thing with with the first book I wrote. Prior to that, I never thought I did anything different. So me fundraising, a lot of money to pay for American education, figuring out my way, doing these different things. I thought everybody else was doing that. So the weirdest challenge is actually identifying what I was meant to do and identifying my strengths and recognizing that what I had to offer was actually very unique. Honestly, I didn't think anything I did was any different until various mentors and friends came around and they kind of said, people don't do these things this way. You have a very unique way about doing stuff and connecting with people and so on. And so that's where I started, oh, well, maybe I should put this in a book. Maybe I should talk to people more. Maybe I should put myself out there. And then when I did, the fascinating thing happened. Until very recently, most of my clients have come from referrals. People talking to each other and saying, "You have to talk to this guy," including speaking gigs and training opportunities. It's generally people meeting me and being like, "Oh, I have someone for you." And so that it just kind of got the life of its own. If I had been more deliberate at first about determining what is the path, I would have probably, it would have been easier. Because this kind of path, it sounds wonderful in retrospect. I tell this story, it's very romantic, I fell into it and so on. But when you get this calling and you don't know what it is, they get this call to do something, you have this skill, but you're not sure what to do with it. It can be very confusing, it can be very stressful. So you're kind of torn and that limits your focus. So for a long time, I wasn't exactly focused because I just thought, well, this is just one of my skills. Should I do law school still? I had that kind of thinking. So I think that was the biggest obstacle, is understanding and owning it. Once I did, it became easier. So when people are building their business and they're thinking, a lot of times it's a lack of that clarity of both why, but also the vision, right? So where do they want to go? What does that look like? And then of course, how to get there. Does that answer your question?
Yeah, absolutely, of course. So, what would you say are the mistakes that they make? Because you've been in the coaching industry for a while now, speaking engagements as well, and there are things you've probably have seen and like, oh, if I were you, I would do that. What do you think are the common mistakes that they make? And for your own self, for your own personal opinion, you won't do that. What are these things? To mention a few.
Mistakes for me in the coaching arena and speaking arena has been that I gave I did a lot of work for free, or I undersold.
Is that a mistake? Or sometimes people say give things out for free, and the more you give, the more it comes back to you, and also always put things out there for free. Would you say that's That's
So, yes and no. So there's a line, right? There's a point. What I did is I was so, I think I contribute, let me put it this way. I think the more we give, the more comes back to us. That's a fundamental belief that I have. But when you're trying to build a business, you want to be more strategic about it, and you want to take care of yourself. And sometimes some of us who believe in service and have a desire, right, to help, and we feed off of that impact as opposed to, food. What happens is there is you can get carried away and give more than is perhaps necessary, or you do it for longer than you ought to. So it's about, the one thing though I'm grateful about is that my giving was very genuine. So people recognize that, and then it's come back multifold. So I think the challenge was that at times I would, even to this day, right, when people want to work with me, I'm more than happy to give them of my time. And we chat if they're curious. Even if they don't sign up, it's okay, because I still believe I'm impacting this person. It doesn't matter even if they don't sign up with me. I think that was the sometimes managing that a little bit better. Originally, I didn't do that, right? Years ago, I was a lot more free for all, which there was a toll on that in terms of energy and in terms of focus of getting things that are really, really important done. And so that would be one. The other, I think, mistake that I made early on is I didn't put myself out there more deliberately. Because of this, I have this, right, downfall where I forget. I'm always growing, right? I'm always learning and developing myself. So a lot of things that are really helpful to people, a lot of tools that I have, for a long time, I just think that's not that complicated. Everybody knows this, right? So that was a very much if you want, for your listeners, it's not defining your product in a specific manner. So that way you can share it and put it out to other people, right? What is it exactly that you can do for people? And that's a mistake that I think, so product development, right? Being very clear on what are the different products that I have to offer. And then the third thing, something you might like in terms of the branding aspect, humility got in my way. So I've had opportunities that, I see some of the coaches that post these pictures, or speakers, they post these pictures. I've been in situations where, I've given talks in front of 700 people. I don't have any pictures from that. Well, a couple of times what happened is for some reason, the camera people messed it up. But I didn't make a point of that because I was so focused on the talk that I wasn't thinking about, hey, put myself out there. The other thing is I didn't put my name out there. So I didn't say AdiRedzic.com, go find Adi, because I was like, well, why am I putting myself out there? I should come up with a different name that something resonates with people. Who the hell is Adi? I don't need to be a celebrity. And that got in the way because that created messaging confusion, right? That created a bit of, well, where does this guy stand? Or who is that? Wait, oh, you're Adi, you're the Think Change guy. Oh, and I think that was another mistake. So some of the lack of clarity and deliberate action and deliberate marketing, deliberate sales, I kind of eased my way into it, which wasn't always the best.
Yeah, I get what you mean though, but like at the end of that, there should always be like a call to action where people can go to find you and to know more about you as well, which I totally, understand, I haven't said that, what has been the best advice you've gotten so far, to now?
I've been fortunate to have so many wonderful people in my life in terms of mentors and a coach and so on, that there's been a lot of advice. I think, all right, I have to give you two. One is, show the world your middle finger and create your own reality. That's the one. That is how you separate yourself from all the noise that sabotages you. The other one, don't doubt your value. And that's that's actually Aslan. That's from the, Narnia, C.S. Lewis. So, but that's those. I would say those are the two when it comes to just general building your business, believing in yourself, getting things done, living life. If you're asking specifically about business, simplify. So, and this is something when I work with my clients and building their businesses, I tell them, what are you doing with that business plan? The hell are you complicating that? Stop complicating. It doesn't have to have 30, 50 pages because, those templates, they show you 30, so you're supposed to do it this way and do all these analysis and stuff like that. I'm like, what analysis you're doing? You're investing $5,000 in your business and you're doing an analysis. Like, don't waste the time on that. That's just bureaucracy. Focus on what's the viable product you're going to sell? How are you going to get it? What is your client? The kind of the 4 ingredients of a business, right? The plan, marketing strategy, budget, and people. And then you go do it. So that's as far as the business. That was very eye-opening, that advice, because I used to read all these books, right? How to build businesses, and manage people and all this stuff, which can get overwhelming. And so the more you can simplify, the more energy and space you have to actually create and execute.
Yeah, absolutely, Adi. You just mentioned something about people now, what's your take on, building relationships with people in business, to say customers as well, what's your take on that? Because, from those past few days, I've been, talking about this with people I'm interviewing as well, talking about building honest relationship, like, are the days of hard selling gone? Do you need to, know people well? Because like people buy from people that they like, and people buy with emotions as well. In saying that, what is your take on building relationship with people and customers as well?
Yes, that's my take. So I believe relationships are essential. We are emotional beings. Connecting with people is how we function. We're social beings. We are energetically connected with each other. I also have, as one of my clients put it, he's like, I don't know how else to put it, but you almost have a psychic-like ability to read my mind. So I have the tendency to connect very much with people, to read between the lines, to understand, to kind of tune in, So from that standpoint, I'm wired to operate that way. That is why I've been in business for a long time, and lots of my clients came through relationships because they all talked to each other and told others about me. That wouldn't have happened if I didn't have a bond. And I'm also very deliberate about creating relationships with people that are meaningful. They don't have to be as broad or as extensive. None of us has time to have a million friends and so on. But when you're connecting with a person, if I'm right in front of you, I'm giving you my 100%. I'm also giving you my 100% focus. Why? Because that is how we connect. That is how we make a bond of certain level. And the same thing is with clients. So even if you talk to somebody and that person doesn't become your client, you still made a connection. So relationships are critical. And this is especially so. I came here without any connections, without any meaningful, people to say, oh, here, let me give you a job. Let me give you all these opportunities. Sure. I had some opportunity and I got here. But the fact is I had to build connections. I had to reach out to people. So if I didn't view every interaction as an opportunity to meet another fellow human being and connect with them, I would not have raised money for college. I would not have had jobs and opportunities that I did. But those things happened because it wasn't transactional. I wasn't trying to sell people and stuff. I really genuinely wanted to, hey, let's have this moment of connection mean something. And then we see where it goes from there.
Absolutely.
So yes, relationships are critical.
Yeah, absolutely, Adi. Love that, man. And in saying that, relationships and all that, you just spoke about how you started as well. In doing all this, for those that don't know, how important is mentorship in starting out? Someone that will guide you along the way. How important is that?
Very. So that's critical, and that stems from being open. right? So you meet people, you connect with them, you feel that comfort level, and you're open, you share your dreams, you share your hopes, you share your pain. And the right people connect with that, and they give you the support and the encouragement and the wisdom, right, in order to help you get ahead. There are some, there's some efforts have been made to enhance mentorship, but people often forget the connection part of mentorship. I can say I'll be mentor, but I won't be the right fit, right mentor for everybody, just like a lot of people wouldn't be for me. But when you find the right people, they're really critical. And I've been fortunate because I would talk to people, and I've had mentors and supporters from all walks of life who contributed in different ways and made my life richer and made me a better person as a result. And I'm beyond grateful to all of them. So when people are starting out, this is also, by the way, why I encourage coaching wholeheartedly, even if it's, of course, it's self-serving. I want everybody to hire me, but if it's not me, just get a coach, because that person serves both a mentor, but it adds more of an objective. Mentor gets emotional with you, so the objectivity shifts a little bit because it's not their job. They're just doing it because they care. But if you're starting out, who are the people that can support you on your journey in a very much a constructive way, who align with you, who understand where you're headed, who can give you advice that's relevant? There are a lot of people who will give us advice, but doesn't mean we should listen to a lot of it. We have to find the people that jive properly with us, and then get those people. Those people don't always have to be in our industry, right? You think, oh, you're building a podcast, so you should find a podcast mentor. Not necessarily, because a lot of those skills, a lot of that wisdom is transferable. So you find people that you really connect with, and then they, help you out. One of my mentors, when I was raising money, right? And I work in fundraising and development and so forth. He's this fantastic man who grew up in the Dakotas, and he very, very poor and all these things. And he rose up to be a vice president of the college and so on. He was so open-minded, so kind, with a bow tie, with a little black book of connections that he'd call and raise money, very old school. But he was so full of wisdom, how to connect with people. And one of the advice he gave me was, I was hanging out with a billionaire once, and I was nervous. And he said to me, well, he puts his pants in the morning just like you do. Don't ever forget that. And I haven't. So when I went to the White House, when I met members of Congress, that's exactly how I looked at them. And I'm like, yep, this morning your back was hurting as you were getting out of bed, just like mine was. So that's where mentors, it can be a simple advice like that really resonates. So if you don't have a mentor, you personally or your listeners, look for one. And the teacher will show up when the pupil is ready, right? So yeah, they're out there.
Yeah, absolutely, man. I love that. I think after listening to what you've said just now, I'll probably get a coach or get a mentor as well.
Nice. Should.
We're at the age where internet has evolved and a lot of stuff going on online. Social media is taking over. And there's all sorts going on right now. What's your take on social media? For you, I know building a brand with it is good, but there are other things again that come with social media, in terms of keeping your mental health, that's one of them, and all sorts of other things going around the internet as well. What's your take on social media? Is it good for business? Is it bad for business? Is it good for you, bad for you? What's your take on that?
So I was an early adapter to social media. So Facebook, Twitter, I had an account right away. I used it. LinkedIn. The thing is, social media has made we're more connected than ever, yet we're lonelier than ever as a society. And by society, I don't mean the United States, I mean the world. And so there's value to social media if it's used in a way that, in theory, it was meant to. So if you think of connecting with people, sharing pictures, keeping in touch, actually engaging, not just perfunctory, then yes, the social media has value. Maybe meeting some new people, connecting the way you and I connected and so on, that there's an opportunity, right? Now, when it becomes, most people these days in the United States at least consume their news from Facebook. That is not healthy for your mental state, especially in the last 3 months in the United States with the Black Lives Movement, and which is, so to me, it's like there's no question about Black Lives Matter. Why is that so hard for people to get, right? But when you see people who you've known in your network who say most terrible things because of their own experiences and the lack thereof, right, exposure, that can affect your mental health. And that's where you have to manage it, right? So I made a decision at one point, if I log in, it's going to be temporary. I'm going to ask myself, what value will I give if I comment on this, or if I engage with this post? And is it really worth it, right? And so you have to be very deliberate in order to protect yourself if you're using social media for those things, for politics and news and so on. Now, when it comes to branding and when it comes to your business, Facebook, which also owns Instagram, is not a good company. And I do not believe Mark Zuckerberg is an honest person. And I do not believe I'm not saying his employees. I know people who work at Facebook, they're good people and they're doing their best jobs. But their algorithms, they're designed, whoever has the most money is going to get ahead. So ads and so forth, they've changed quite a bit. So Instagram has changed quite a bit in the last few years. So I don't recognize Facebook and their platforms as a valuable tool for business unless you make it more personal. So and that requires more work. So if you go through profiles and you reach a person, not one of those DM me for collab BS, right, that people do. I mean, that stuff is just so trashy.
Yeah. I get a lot of those.
Yes, and you know exactly what I'm talking. It's like, why are you wasting? Why? It's bots and stuff like that. So those things. But if you really want to connect with someone, you search a person, you reach out reasonably, there's an opportunity. So from that standpoint, it can be used like that. But in a traditional sense, or the sense they're promoting like ads and all these things, I'm very doubtful, because I see the algorithms. I've seen companies that invest quite a bit money. Some have had successes, but there have to be different strategies. You know, you find an influencer, you get the influencer, you pay the influencer to promote you and so on. Again, there's strategies and they could be used, but you have to be very deliberate and very think it through what kind of outcome you want. Now, Twitter is a little bit different, as is LinkedIn. LinkedIn is the most transparent about their algorithms. You know what to expect. They give you certain tools that you can utilize. And that's where then it comes again to relationships and how you make those connections. But I think social or professional networking like LinkedIn has a lot more value. So I would encourage people to use LinkedIn over Facebook any day when it comes to business. That's my take on it. Of course, I'm sure there's plenty of people who would disagree with this, and you know, I'm more than happy to be convinced otherwise. But I don't. When I see a company making consistent mistakes that are not that complicated, or they're very inconsistent, or they're not transparent to tell me, okay, when Coca-Cola makes Coca-Cola, you see what's ingredients in it, right? So if you have a company that has an algorithm, well, what's your algorithm? How do we figure it out? If I constantly see, I have, 2,000 friends, and I constantly see 15 of them, that's actually limiting my experience, because I want to see at least 100, because I do have 100 friends, right? And so that's my take. And maybe it's a little bit more, the other thing is I haven't benefited. And there was a point, I had a marketer investing in social media and so on. Not much happened. I have a bunch of likes here and there, but I don't believe that is it's not translatable into business. So that's
absolutely. And to add to that as well, they don't want to show all that to all your friends, because they want someone to pay something.
Mm-hmm.
They want someone to pay something, because if it's all a business strategy. You never know.
And you know what? I don't blame anybody who wants to make money. Don't get me wrong. I mean, I live downtown Chicago in a skyscraper, so I understand the need to make money. But there's a line. If I see more ads in one scroll through Facebook than I do of any of my friends or pages I follow, that defeats the purpose, right? That defeats the purpose of a social networking group. Then why not do what actually is one value of Facebook? Create a group. Bring your people in or whoever you want and interact within the group, with the confines of the group. And then you're going to get, it's more targeted. So it's the levels, right? Advertising here and there, by all means. Google does it, right? But if you scroll enough, you then start seeing the results you want to see. Now, of course, lots of that stuff is monetizing, which is why there's so much misinformation, which is why people are overwhelmed with the amount of information. Because what do you trust? Which is why people manipulate one another, right? So that's where I think social media platforms need to take more responsibility for the well-being of all of us, including their own bottom line, right?
Yeah, absolutely. In saying that now, you mentioned a couple of minutes ago about Black Lives Matters and, bringing all that into context now, how do you see diversity in the business environment? How diverse do you want, the business environment to be? Because there are people that have different opinions about other people, which we all know about, but in terms of we coming as one, as humans, and trying to create something that works, how important is diversity in business?
I just gave a talk this morning about diversity and why diversity and inclusion are critical for business. Every data shows, everything out there, studies show the businesses that are inclusive and embrace diversity, not just in numbers, right? The United States is very diverse, but it's not necessarily inclusive. But actually places that have equity, that have diversity and inclusivity thrive. They see growth of 2.3 times more in terms of revenue. They see happy employees who are willing to stay and proudly share with the rest of the world. And here's another, where they work and stay there and bring customers. Here's another thing. This year, 50% of millennials, so our generation, right? We make up 50% of the workforce. 80% of us care whether our company is in any company that has diverse people in their ranks, leadership ranks, where they are able to innovate. They actually have a lot more revenue and a lot more new products because they have different perspectives. When you bring them together, they generate all kinds of new ideas because they understand different markets. So diversity is excellent for business. And this is not me saying it from a moral standpoint. This is me saying it from the business standpoint. And some of the people have known this for a long time. It's just that implementation of it has been lagging because becoming inclusive is tough for many people because of their backgrounds and experiences and so on. But that doesn't mean it's not, it's the future, and whoever gets there sooner will have more opportunities to make money and to build their business. And there's a great story about Apple about that. In the 80s, they had engineers, artists, creative types from all walks of life. They were so diverse. It didn't matter that you get your degree from Harvard or what did you do. They brought people together. They all rallied around that ad, right? Think different. They rallied about Apple, the brand. That is when Apple built its brand. That then, they were struggling. They brought Steve Jobs, and here we go, most valued company on earth still. And so it has to do with that. You bring in people and let them bring their best talents. That is good.
Yeah, absolutely, Adi. Yeah, you have to think change,
All right, touche.
You
drove that one home.
Yeah, you have to. So for those that are listening to you and say, "Oh, I love this guy. I love what he does. I love everything about him. I want to do what he's doing as well. What would be your advice to people like that? That want to sort of go into speaking like you. Coach, being a coach as well. What would that advice be to them?
So understand what that really means, right? The history of coaching is actually, so it's prior to athletic coaching. It emerged in the 1800s, London, where it was getting you ahead in life. So you take a coach, right, to take you from one part from Oxford to I don't know,
To
Westminster.
Oxford, yeah.
Right. And so the idea is, do you really have what it takes to take people from point A to point B, C, D, and so on? And also, what makes you credible? What areas do you need to work on before you can be in that position? Because and part of it, so one time I was at a networking event, and there was a lady that came to me, and I introduced myself, my name and what I do. And she said, "Oh, there's a few of you here." And I looked at her, I was like, "There's only one me. There's only one Adi here." And she was like, no, coaches. She's like, "I was just talking to someone, and thank you, I'm going to go." So I was like, all right. And so I introduced myself as a limo driver for the rest of the evening. Ironically, a guy that runs a tech company out of Uruguay talked to me that night, and he was like, "We got to work together because you're not a limo driver." And I was like, "Yeah, I am." He's like, "Show me your limo." I was like, "It's outside." He's like, "All right, let's go see it." So I had to come clean to him, and he was like, "Yeah, you're," and then we talked business, and it's been a great connection since. But the thing about it is that I met people who really care. They want to help people, but wanting to help people does not mean you should be a coach. There was this kid who told me this story, how he, finished school and then moved across the country for a job at this company. And then he moved again and quit that job so he can pursue and help other people, and paid someone else who kind of sold him on some program a lot of money to become a coach. And I kind of looked at him, but then it's not doing anything for him, right? It's not. I was like, well, how does that make you qualified? Well, people don't do that. I want to encourage people to do that. And I'm like, yeah, a lot of people have gone to school, and a lot of people moved across the country or across the globe for a better opportunity. What kind of skills, what kind of shit have you dealt with in your life? What kind of soul searching have you done? And challenge your own limitations and change their habits and overcame and built. And it doesn't have to be Adi's story crossing the ocean, but it has to be more than going to school that's very structured and getting a job. What else have you done, right? But I felt bad because his motivation was right. He wanted to help, and that's wonderful. Another time I talked to this friend of a friend. She's like, "I want to be a coach. Can we talk?" We talked. And at the beginning of the conversation, she was so determined to be a coach because she went on one of these websites that they sold her. Sign up for this plan and you'll become a coach. Very genuine, very amazing person, right? When I talked to her a little bit, we discovered that that's not really her calling. She wanted to help, but she had a very nuanced, very different calling that she's actually following today. Our conversation was, I think, 2013 or 14. So if you want to be a coach, figure out what is it who you are, what are you all about, how can you really help people in concrete ways, how do you demonstrate that you're qualified to do so, and then by all means, this world needs more smart people who will challenge and help others be successful. So by all means, but it has to start with internal work and that clarity, and then you build on it. And then you figure out what makes you unique. What kind of work? There are people who are passionate about relationships, or they're passionate about career, leadership. I mean, there's so many areas, marketing coaches. I mean, you can do that, but understand who you are. So that way, when you talk to potential clients, they understand what you're about, what they can get from you, and so on. Does that answer the question?
Yeah, it does. It does. Absolutely it does. You've done it for yourself. You've really come far. I love what you're doing so far. I like the fact that we've connected. We're building a relationship right here. And you've done great stuff for yourself. But Ade, when it now comes to the end of things, and someday, we are gonna leave this world. What is that thing you want to be remembered for? Now I'm talking legacy here now. What would be your legacy for people, to be remembered for? What is that thing you think you're thinking to yourself now, like, someday when I leave this world, I want to be remembered for the fact that, I did this and I did that. What is that thing you're thinking about?
So I there was a quote, I think it's Paulo Coelho, that I heard one time. It may not have been him, but it said, become a person that brings light into a room from the moment you show up. That lights up the room, right? From the moment you come in. It was actually Montenegrin, so I'm translating roughly here. So to me, it's at the last day of my life, I want to look back and say, I'm empty of every possibility. I've lived crazy life. I've lived an amazing life, experienced all the things I wanted to experience, and I've given it my all, that I do not have anything else left to give, right? Empty of all possibility. In the process, the legacy that I hope is to have impacted other people's lives, to have given them some light, and to have given them a belief that they themselves can achieve things, and the tools and the skills that they have, whether it be in the capacity as a coach or, you know, running other organizations, which I've done and I suspect I'll do in the future as well. Any of that stuff, it's making people's lives better. And so that's, my grandmother was really important in my upbringing. She raised me. She died when I was, 14. That was a big difference. But she was this La Dolce Vita, right? The sweet life. She had a really rough life. But if you talk to her, you'd feel so safe and warm and loved. And I've taken that, a little bit further. So my desire would be, I can't predict what happens. I can talk about, I'd like to write a few more books, which I would and will. I'd like to get in front of more people. I'd like to, I'm on a mission to affect as many people as I can. But regardless of those numbers, at the end of my life, I want to know that it's been a full life, and that people I've touched in my journey, right, that I've been connected with, that came across, they walked away, or at least most have walked away with that they were impacted in a positive way. So that's the, I have, of course, like anyone else, I have dreams of, I'd like my house in the hill, in the mountain that oversees the ocean, with my, pool and just beautiful modern design. I like my convertible. I like traveling all over the world, seeing all the places, meeting people. We all, there's that part. There's a part about, I'd love to be in front of, instead of 1,000 people, be in front of, 10,000 people. Of course I would. But there's the humility, right? I'd like to hang out with Oprah, of course, but there's the humility that says, that might not happen. I may die tomorrow. I know that I've lived well if I've, impacted, if even one life has breathed easier because I have lived. And that's sort of my motto. And if I'm doing it as a coach, if I'm doing it as a speaker, as a writer, fabulous. But I've always said that if I one day decide, you know what, I'm not feeling 100% in this anymore, I'm going to go flip burgers. I'm going to go do something else. And that doesn't make me any less valuable. It just means life has been changing, and I've changed, and that's okay. Thinking change, right? So that's, I think that's very much my, and naturally, I, of course, want to look back and say, okay, I was an honorable person, and I, did the right things, and I had the courage, right? I owned it. I had the guts to stand up and so on.
Yeah, I did. Nice, man. I love that. Touching. Love that. Having said that now, what will be that one thing that you want people to take away from this? The one thing they will remember, they will remember and say, I listened to Adi on this show, and Adi said this, and this is going to stick with me for a long time.
So it would be, take responsibility for your own happiness. So from the moment we wake up till the moment we go to bed, we have one job: to make ourselves happy. Not at the expense of others, of course, but focusing on ourselves. At the airplane, right? When you get on an airplane, they tell you, put an oxygen mask in your mouth so you can help others. Take care of yourself. Don't settle. Follow your dreams, right? Taking care of yourself means that you don't let the light die within you. You don't let the music die within you. So if people can take something from this, is own it. Own every bit of your life, good, bad, and otherwise. The bad stuff, heal it. If you can improve something, you do that. The good stuff, amplify it, and give it your all, because the world doesn't need, I don't know what. The world needs more people who come alive and who live authentically, who give of themselves. So if people are listening and they're thinking, should I start a business? Dig into it, figure out what that means for you. Is that your light? If so, follow it. What would make you happy? You do that. And that's the message, right? The ownership. Own it. You're good, you deserve it. You need to own it. And that transforms your life.
Absolutely, Adi. Loving. Absolutely. You know, so for those that want to get in touch with you, and also want to, get your book as well, where can they get your book, and how can they get in touch with you?
So the best way to get in touch, so I'm at AskDproS.com. So that's my website. I'm also on social media. So by all means, follow me, connect with me on there. And in terms of the book, if you look up my name on Amazon, there's 2 books out there. One is Own It, a practical guide to defying the odds and claiming your life. And the other is Once in Love, Always in Love. It's a very different story, but it's also a very meaningful read. So that's available, what they say, wherever the books sell, Barnes & Noble, Amazon, Smashwords, if you want an e-copy. And if for anyone who wants a signed copy of either of the books, go on my website, again, AskDproS.com, and send me a message, and we'll take care of you.
Absolutely, Adi. Love it, man. Love the conversation so far. It's been really, really, like, what's the word now? It's been value to me. Gotten a lot of value from this. And I love the conversation. We've spoken before this, but I sort of like knew who you are. And I know you're a genuine person, and I pray that we keep this relationship for a long time. And it's good. And I'm grateful as well for the time.
Of course. And, I'll throw something else in, because you have dedicated listeners. If any of your listeners go to my website and they want to sign up for a coaching session or coaching, I give a free consultation anyway. But they mentioned they heard about me on your podcast, I will give them 10% off.
Oh, that's good. Great. Nice. So for those of you
giving a bit more value for to your listeners.
So guys, jump on that offer. It's not gonna wait for a long time. So jump on it, man. Real quick.
I love it.
Yeah. So Adi, that's it, man. Adi, nice one, man. Nice one. Love it, man. Love every bit of it, man.